Hey everyone, Coach Mary here at Totally Do You and Totally Do You Believe That Justice is for All. I've been thinking about the MLK parade and the time at the courthouse on Thursday and Friday, and a lot of people are asking what is Kangaroo Court. So I know I put it on one of my videos and I just am going to say again, other than what the first definition is, would be like a mock court or sorority court, which I would say that definitely Pinellas County is making a mockery of the court. But number two would be it's a slang, kangaroo court, for an authorized court or legal proceeding in which a fair proceedings are impossible due, for example, and we're going to go over some more examples that are common practice in Pinellas County and maybe other places in Florida or America. I hope not, but perhaps. So it's impossible to have fair proceedings due to, for example, a partial judge, as in Judge Federico, who is known in certain communities to, if you go in front of him, you're not going to see the light of day, and that's not determinant of a conviction. That's just, if you go in front of him, you know you're not going to get a fair shake. And you can see that all over my husband's case, and I would say if you investigate, you'll see it other places. And he's been accused of not following the law before. Or excessive press coverage. So that would be an interesting one to get into later. But let's get into my list here. It's a list of 7. Yep, 7. And these are some things that I believe are happening regularly, and I hope that people will start to share their story, because when we come together, especially when we come together in the name of God, when we come together and declare our authority under Jesus, the name above all names, we're able to move mountains, we're able to make things happen, and we can command justice that are not only our United States Constitution guarantees us, right, but the justice that Jesus loves, because he says that uneven weights are an abomination, right, and dishonest scales are not good. So we can declare our authority in this case. Another thing that the word says, because don't we love the word, evil will slay the wicked. The foes of the righteous will be condemned. All right, so here is Kangaroo Court in Pinellas, and if you hashtag in the comments number 1, number 2, whichever ones happened to you, or share if something else happened to you, that is obviously corruption of the court, where they're jumping over normal constitutional procedures, they're jumping over evidence, just jumping over justice, right? Because that's another explanation of the kangaroo court, is that you're basically jumping over the truth just so they can get their desired convictions. So number 1, if the police illegally search or detain you, if they tell you they can come into your house, search you, or just arrest you without cause, or even a complaining victim or other witness, then you've experienced kangaroo court. And not only that, I just want to take a second to say it's such a waste of money for these cops to be out here just hyper arresting people. I've sat in an arraignment one morning, and 4 people, 3 out of 4 of the people that were arraigned, they didn't even have a complaining victim. They had people speaking on their behalf against what the charges were. And I guarantee, just as in my husband's case, there was probably never a witness to subpoena against them, and there was probably never any evidence to put against them. Probably most of them, like the 2 out of the 3 people, right, that weren't actually having anybody complaining against them, but were still arrested, were people that I knew whose charges got dropped. So how often does that happen? And that's such a waste of money, and it destroys people's lives. more than what is understood or what is accepted out loud by most people in the courtroom that aren't being affected, right? They keep these people in jail for excessive times. Let's go to number 2 before I get too off track. All right, if there is no evidence to prove guilt or to prove a crime, yet your public defender refuses to file any motion to dismiss the charges because of no evidence, motion to dismiss because of expiration of speedy trial, right? Anything, if your public defender is just letting you sit there, you've experienced kangaroo court. Number 3, when you're held in jail until you're pressured into a deal, like my husband was in 2007, because the expiration of speedy trial is ignored, just completely ignored by your public defender, prosecutor, judge, pretty much everybody who knows the law and understands the law, or you would think, right, because they're in the position of authority, yet they have no accountability. So if all of your due process rights have been ignored, as in speedy trial, facing your accuser, knowing the evidence against you, going to court, just going to court when they're meeting, like on my husband's behalf, they met multiple times over 600 days, and he was never there. He found out about the decision to postpone trial on average 3 days after it happened, right? So I wonder how many people, if we did a survey right now today in Pinellas County Jail, how many people are sitting in there past the expiration of speedy trial, just sitting in there? Because tell me one good reason why a prosecutor wouldn't bring somebody to trial if they had the evidence and the witnesses to prosecute them. Give me one good reason. But if we went and surveyed everybody in Pinellas County Jail right now, I guarantee we would find them sitting there waiting. And a speedy trial is important. It's our legal right. Number 4. If the police and the prosecutor, the public defender, judges, whoever, I mean, at this point, it could be anybody inside this courtroom, covers up, ignores, or just totally disregards any kind of evidence that would help you or prove that your innocence, or even just prove that you're guilty of a lesser crime, that's first of all illegal, and that's kangaroo court, right? They can't cover up evidence, they can't not collect evidence, they can't not present evidence to the jury just because it's favorable to the accused. Because the problem is that we have a system where all the people in authority forgot or maybe never even learned what it means to be innocent until proven guilty. Right? So if you've experienced people cherry picking evidence and manipulating evidence, then you've experienced kangaroo court. Number 5. If your public defender does not show you any evidence, bring you to court, and provide you opportunity to face your accuser, if you've done everything you can to claim your due process rights, but you're still not getting them, that's kangaroo court. And I know that was like a little bit redundant, but trust me, people need to understand you have the right to be brought to trial in a speedy fashion. You have a right to face your accuser. You have a right to see the evidence against you. The prosecutor does not have a right to cherry pick their evidence. The prosecutor does not have a right to hold you in jail until you can't take it anymore and you're just ready to take a deal to get out of there. Right? All of this is illegal. And it's a system of oppression that, frankly, the people are done with it. I'm done with it. And I'm pretty sure because I've been called to come against you, that Jesus is done with it too. All right, number 6. If your PD fails to search down, question, and investigate witnesses and other leads on your behalf, and especially, this is really important, if your public defender does not subpoena a witness for you, you've experienced kangaroo court, right? Because your public defender has the authority and the obligation to do what you need for your defense. So when you have a witness that would be favorable to you, or when there's a possibility of a witness favorable to you, and they don't search them down, well then all of the evidence is not being presented. And I would say you could even argue that the prosecutor has an obligation to search down those leads and question them and present the full truth to the jury, right? Because that's what's so unique about America, that we're judged by a jury of our peers. But that judgment means nothing when all of the full evidence is not brought forth, right? All right, so number 7, it's another one that has to do with putting a subpoena for a witness. All right, so if the public defender tells you that you don't need to call a witness because they have all this evidence, or maybe they tell you you don't need to testify because they have all this evidence, and they show you all this evidence, or maybe like in my sister's case, you bring all this evidence to your public defender and they're like, yeah, good. Oh, you don't need to testify. We have all this evidence. Hannah Ibanez. Yeah, I'll say it. Trump derangement syndrome. All right. If they do not subpoena a witness on your behalf, you have experienced kangaroo court. So who are the people that have public defenders? Who are the people that have public defenders? Oh, people that can't afford lawyers, right? People that probably grew up in poverty, people whose kin and friends and family, people who are probably a witness to whatever is going on in that person's life. They probably are a little hard up too. They're probably living in poverty too, right? So what does a subpoena do? Why do you need to have the witnesses there? One, because the more evidence supporting your innocence, or supporting that maybe even that you're guilty of a lesser crime, right? Because it could be the difference in my husband's case of maybe like 5 years and life in prison. That's his 2014 case, right? If all the evidence was brought forward, they would not have been able to charge him on burglary. It would have had to have been a lesser charge, right? So the reason it's important is because if your loved one, the person that you need to testify for you, can't miss work because they'll get fired, well, if they have that subpoena, they can miss work. If your loved one doesn't have transportation, if your loved one can't really afford to just miss work and then also go to pay to get there, well, I mean, you probably aren't going to get paid to be a victim or to be a witness unless you're a victim, right? Unless you're a witness for the state, you can get paid a per diem, or if you're like more than 50 miles away. But the point is that I'm trying to make, when that subpoena comes in, the state not only guarantees your witness, gives your witness the safeguard that they can leave work without being fired, right, or disciplined, and it also will pay them a couple bucks to be able to ensure that they can get there. So why do we have so many public defenders not calling witnesses, not questioning witnesses, not tracking down leads? Is it because they're slapping five with the prosecutor and there's like a whole courtroom relationship, like a whole little threesome going on between the prosecutor and the judge and the public defender? I don't know, maybe in some cases, probably. Or is it because, like the American Bar Association says, even the most efficient lawyer will not be able to be efficient unless their workload provides enough time for them to work on that case. That's the American Bar Association, and this has been known. Yet we still have public defenders coming into the courtroom, meeting their client for the first time minutes before arraignment. So no pretrial intervention, none of that. The police report doesn't match the video. None of no evidence or evidence pointing to somebody else. Like, I'll probably try to put it in this video, but even one public defender let somebody go to jail or prison because they were overworked. And all it took was somebody going back and watching that video, whatever video was in the evidence, to prove that the guy was not guilty. So how does stuff like this happen in a place where it's supposed to be justice for all? So totally, do you believe that we need more checks and balances in the lower tribunal court? And I can give you one example before I close out here of what I mean by checks and balances. So a check that I would say would be appropriate would be that if you're a judge, if you're a lawyer or someone who gets caught breaking the law, manipulating evidence, just doing anything illegal against the Constitution, like you should be convicted and prosecuted yourself, right? Because why, when they're supposed to be held to a higher standard, is there no repercussions, no accountability when they're doing this, breaking the law? And then I would say a balance, what I think would be an appropriate balance is when you get to those expiration of speedy trial, when it gets to that date, why don't we have a system that automatically files the expiration of speedy trial for an accused, right? Because if it was, I was convicted, and now it's been, I think, 2 years after my conviction, and now I can no longer appeal, well, that gets filed immediately, doesn't it? But something that ensures a citizen's rights is not being filed immediately, right? So I just think that we need to do better to ensure that we're not oppressing people based on corruption, and that we're ensuring the integrity of our Constitution at the very lowest level, the lowest level where citizens are affected the most daily. And we see people who are high up in our government who are manipulating the law and think they can just do whatever they want, cherry pick evidence. Well, I'm sure they have experience doing it in the lower level too. At least a number of them. So please share your experience. We need to assemble together. Totally do you in every way. God bless you and God bless America. Like it, subscribe it, share it. Check out my website, totallydoyou.com.